Hello and welcome to Ghouls' first birthday party. Whoop, whoop. As you can see, we've got our party hats on. I do actually, you're going to laugh at this, have cake. I've joined together to purple on pound cake.
Amazing.
And hopefully some of us have bubbles. I have sparkling water. I think a couple of us might already be indulging a little bit. I guess I just wanted to start by saying, thank you so much to everyone that has made the last year pretty phenomenal, to be honest. Ghouls Magazine was like this tiny little concept that during lockdown, my partner and I were like, oh, wouldn't that be cool? And he kept saying to me, he was like, let's do it. I was like, nah. And then we, as everyone during lockdown needed something to do. So decided to set up Ghouls Magazine. And it's pretty much, I'd say, been a bit of a dream of mine to have this community of amazing people. And I feel very, very lucky to be working alongside not only the amazing people that we have here today that we're going to be chatting to in a minute, but also, just the rest of the Ghouls Magazine gang that we have. We have such a phenomenal team. Everyone is just amazing. Rebecca knows I hate getting emotional, so I'm going to keep it normal. But we have, Rebecca, Ariel, Kim works so hard doing a ridiculous amount of stuff for Ghouls Magazine. And then we have the most badass writers who I would say inspire me every single fucking day to get up, write, do stuff. They're just so intelligent. They, have the most insightful thoughts, visceral viewpoints, and just unique voices in, I'd say, the entire community, not just Ghouls Magazine. So yeah, a huge thank you to every person that is a part of Ghouls Magazine. And then I guess a huge thank you to everyone that is supporting us. We couldn't exist without you. So thank you so much. Do continue to support us by following us on our social channels, heading to ghoulsmagazine.com, and also joining our membership or our Patreon, which you can find out more about a little bit later. I'm going to shut the hell up. I'm going to pass it over to Ariel, who's going to be your host. And yeah, that's it.
Thanks so much, Zoe. I know I can't get emotional yet because we've got a whole day ahead of us, but I got a little emotional while you were talking. So we're going to get into some fun questions now. Thank you so much to everybody who sent in questions. I don't think we'll have time to get to all of them, but we'll do our best. So just to kick us off, what is either your favorite thing about writing for Ghouls or maybe something you learned in the first years of Ghouls Magazine existence? Amber, do you want to start?
Hello, guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Hi, sorry, what was the question again? My internet's being a little bitch right now.
That's okay. Either your favorite thing about writing for Ghouls or something you learned in the first year of Ghouls Magazine's existence.
I learned basically that there is a huge community of the most supportive, kind, creative, hilarious, smart. I could go on gushing, but basically amazing women and non-binary folk in horror that I can't believe it took me this long to find this community. And I'm just so grateful to Ghouls for giving me and everyone else the opportunity to join together in this little club that you guys have made. And for me personally, I'm sure you guys can relate. Everyone, my friends in real life were like, ew, no, I hate horror, blah, blah, blah. And I was just always like, okay, well, I'm a weirdo then. But I'm not. And if I am, then we're all weirdos together. And I love that. And yeah, thank you, Ghouls, for doing that for us.
Thanks, Amber. Iona, do you want to jump in?
Oh, gosh. I think the main thing that I think I've learned over my time with Ghouls is probably how little I actually know. I was always that friend in the friendship group that seemed to be the horror nerd, and I seemed to be the person that people came to for information about horror stuff. And then I joined this community, and it really opened my eyes to how many different genres I hadn't delved into, how much kind of discussion that I hadn't really thought about or considered. So I think the best thing for Ghouls for me is the learning that I'm having every day, like reading everyone else's articles, like looking at the films people are recommending. It's just, yeah, it's really like opened my eyes to a lot of stuff that I didn't realize was out there.
I totally agree with that. I thought I was super knowledgeable about horror, but every day I'm like keeping a list of stuff I haven't seen and things I haven't thought about, which is really wonderful. It looks like we lost Amber. Hopefully we can get her back. But in the meantime, Zoe or Rebecca, do you want to jump in on this one? Either something you learned or your favorite thing about this last year?
Okay, so I guess something that I've learned, gosh, I'll echo what Amber said, so the importance of community and how nurturing it can be, because I was sort of writing on my own before, and to have ghouls like wrapped around me like a family has just been like the greatest gift. And being part of that community within Ghouls has been key in terms of supporting my own like growth as a writer. I think as well, like, you know, we live in a society, don't we, where value and worth is all placed on like constant production. You've got to be constantly producing things, but it's like I'm slowly learning as well that sort of taking breaks is actually just as effective as sort of plowing away constantly as well, and like just stepping back and going, hey, like, you know, we've come really far, like today's a great time to be reflecting on that. And like Zoe and I know, you know, we're right in the thick of it, and we've got Ariel and Kim, which is fab. And it's like sometimes you can lose the track of what you're doing. You know, it's when we get to do things like, say, like write the newsletters, or say like when Zoe and I have our editorial meetings, that you go, oh gosh, actually you reflect on everything and you realise, you know, just what an amazing community Ghouls is.
I think I think I'll probably just echo what everyone else has said. I guess in terms of kind of learnings is that, you know, there's a lot to do all the time. I don't think I fully appreciated how long it takes to do a lot of the admin things behind the scenes. Also learned that I fucking love making a spreadsheet. Turns out I didn't think I'd know that. You know, I think that, you know, just what everyone else said about community is that I think before Ghouls, I was like, I think I'm the only woman out there that likes horror. It certainly felt that way for many, many years. And yeah, my friends, you know, I do have a lot of female friends, but I grew up in quite a male dominated world. So I was fortunate enough to have a lot of, you know, male friends and family that liked horror as well that I could speak to. But I think I was always kind of longing for like a sisterhood that also went, do you know what? Yeah, I like seeing someone get their eyes gouged out, which, you know, when I mentioned that to most of my girlfriends, they were like, should we talk about nail colors? And I was like, fair enough. Like, and you know, don't get me wrong, I like talking about nail color too, but I think finding the fact that there are so many other amazing women, non-binary, you know, lots of different unique voices and marginalized communities within the horror community kind of blew my mind, to be honest. And yeah, I have just enjoyed like connecting with everyone and finding friends along the journey, really.
I echo all of that. It's been such a fun, supportive community. And that kind of is a great segue into our next question from Film Geek Gem on Twitter. How do you get into writing or podcasting? If you feel like you have something to say, but you're maybe a little bit afraid. Anyone want to start on this one?
I'll go.
Yeah, carry on. Sorry.
Sure.
You go,
for me, like Faculty of Horror was my biggest inspiration. It's like often I found I was thinking and analysing horror in like the same way that Alex and Andrea do, but there was no example before them of me to look to within the community you know, as a woman. So once they started, I really felt like I've got something to aim for, and you know, they helped me to believe that there is a space within the community for me. And you know, in terms of like, you know, if you're struggling with fears and how to get into it, you know, I'd say for me, like, one of the things to do is just to lean into that fear if you can, because, you know, ultimately those apprehensions are, you know, really unfounded because the community is so supportive. And it's like, for me, like, podcasting is quite a new thing. So to begin with, for example, I just picked people that I trusted to work with. So in those sort of early stages, I felt supported and held. So I think like that could be a good bit of advice for someone as well. And I'd also say just run towards the projects that like attract you. Don't do it for other people. Do run towards what you're passionate about. It's like, go where that passion is. And I think, you know, that will just shine through.
Yeah, absolutely. Rebecca, I really like what you said about like people that you feel safe with. Like for example, when I started my podcast, I was like, oh my God, no one's gonna care. There's like a million billion podcasts out there. But then I thought, you know what? Well, there is a million billion podcasts out there, but none of them are my podcast and none of them are my voice. So if anyone who's thinking the same, like, yeah, there are a lot of them, but there's always something individual that you as a person will bring to it. No one else. So I sound like a cheesy like high school drama right now. Like no one else has your brain and your heart and your spirit. And yeah, like being comfortable with the first people, like the first few guests that I chose for my podcast were people that I had spoken to like for a long time before. So I was like, I went to them first and was like, can you do this with me, please? And they were just so amazing. And the more you do that, then the more comfortable you are to like branch out. And like, I'll ask anyone now. I have no shame. Like I'll message like a David Lynch and be like, come on my podcast. And you might one day, you never know.
I think I am still a podcast virgin. I've not yet delved into podcast world yet, but in terms of the writing side, is kind of the same way that you were saying, Amber, in terms of like I kind of just dove into it and went, no, do you know what? I'm gonna give this a go. Like no one has my brain, which sounds so like self-righteous, but you know what I mean? Like no one has my exact thoughts, so I'm gonna put them out on a paper, see how it goes. I mean, I started my writing through my degree when I did like television production, like literally like years ago now, like years and years ago. And from there, I hadn't really written anything for a long time, and my job that I was in was not really related to that. And then I found Ghouls actually through the evolution of horror, and I was like, oh, like this sounds like a really good community. This sounds like an amazing place to kind of share like feelings and thoughts. So I just reached out, and that's kind of how I got into writing for Ghouls. I just took a chance, and here we are.
Yeah, I think my like experience was quite similar, is that I was like, do you know what? I love writing, and you know, I think I'm fortunate enough to have come from a journalism background, so I knew that I wanted to go into that. Didn't think anyone kind of said, you know, I was like, why would anyone want to read my article? Like, oh, gross, can I even write? You know, and I just went, fuck it, like, let's set up a little blog, let's put it out there. Like, my passion, I like writing, I write for myself. Like, and if other people end up reading it, cool, that's amazing. And I think when I started realizing that I was doing it because I wanted to, and not because it was like, oh, well, you know, I need to be pleasing this reader and I need to be in that magazine one day and do that. That is kind of, you know, how I kept on like going and getting different things. And, you know, like personally, I'm not very good at pitching to other places. You know, I always say to Rebecca, I'm like, I've only pitched like twice to magazines I'd love to write to. I find it very nerve-wracking, and I hate rejection. So I'm like, the thought of, you know, going to one of my favorite magazines scares the shit out of me. But I think it's about, you know, sometimes trying to just push past those fears. and thinking to yourself, I want to go on a podcast, like, let's see what's out there. And there's so many other amazing like collaborators in the community that also are just starting out and want to build, something themselves too. And it's worth reaching out to them. It's worth reaching out to like online magazines, because, yes, all right, you're not always going to get a yes. But, if you don't get all of those no's, you can never get a single yes from a place that you're interested in writing for, podcasting for. And, I think everyone has got their own unique voice, their own person. And that's what's the coolest bit, is that, everyone has a very different perspective on something. So we've all got something to say, haven't we?
Yes. And I completely agree. I think the first thing is just to try, and it might not work out, but you certainly won't get the chance if you don't try. So if you're out there and you're nervous, I was too, I still am sometimes, like, just try and just see what happens. And I'm sure, reach out to the Ghouls and reach out to me on Twitter. I'll put myself out there. I don't have a ton of experience, but if you're feeling nervous and you want someone to talk to about it, like, hi, I'm a member of your community, reach out to me. And speaking of fear, this is a fun question from the Heavy Metal 101 podcast. What, in your opinion, is the most frightening film of all time? Iona, do you want to start?
Oh God, I always find this one really hard, because I'm one of those people that's always like, oh, horror doesn't actually really scare me that much, guys. Like, I'm always that person in the room. I think when I was younger, I think the most frightening film of all time for me was probably Ju-on, as in like the original Grudge, because my God, that sound, like that like, I remember specifically watching that in the dark on my own and just hearing that sound for the first time and being like, I'm not going to sleep for a week. Like, that's me. I'm done tapping out. Like, but then obviously, like, as I got older, the more I watched it, like, it's now become one of my favorite films. Like, I adore it. It's such a good film. I think more recently, although a lot of people don't really rate it, I actually find Sinister quite scary. Like, I think the whole premise of that, and children, like I mean, children are kind of scary anyway, but like children killing their families and stuff, and I was just a bit like, oh, don't know how I feel about that one. So yeah, I think that one, for most recently, I think that was probably the one that weirds me out the most.
Amber, do you have an answer for this question? You've watched some scary stuff, I know.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of the same as you, Iona. Like, I'm always like, oh, nothing scares me. I'm so hard. But if you like, show me the video for the ghost walking from the film Cairo, English name Pulse, I will crap my pants. Like, that is, to me, the scariest scene I've ever seen, is that slow motion walk. And I go on about the scene all the time because it does get to me so much, is that slow motion weird walk that ghost does across the room. It just gets to me. More recently, a film that really got to me in the same way was The Lighthouse. Specifically, the ending of The Lighthouse filled me with this like weird existential fear that I have not felt before in my life. And that really, really got to me. Things very much like uncanny, slow, quiet things get to me more than like screaming ghosts and ghoulies and things like that. So J-horror, definitely.
For me, I do get scared. So I'm not as cool as you two, but I like it and I seek it out, and I love when a movie can scare me. But for me, the answer to this question is Hereditary. This is a true story. Like, I saw the movie in the theater when it came out, and afterwards, I was with a couple other people, and we went to a bar to get some food. And it was raining really bad that night, so there weren't that many people out, and the bar was really empty. And I really had to go to the bathroom, but I didn't, because I was too scared to be by myself. Like, that's how badly that movie got to me as an adult. And then I really regretted that choice later, because we got stuck in a flood on the way home. So I really had to go to the bathroom for like hours. So obviously we made it out okay. Hereditary for me, I just think it has everything. Like, that movie was specifically designed in a lab to get under my skin, which I love. So that's my answer. Rebecca, do you have one?
I would firstly echo what people have already said about. I was literally just having a conversation with someone last night, and they were telling me about how film had really got under their skin. And I said to them, oh, Joe, horror just doesn't affect me anymore. It's like I feel immune. I wish I had that same, the same feeling I had when I first started watching horror, which is like what I think I'm always chasing, to feel that same fear. But I think it's like a lot of the times it's connected to like how we experience the film and like first watches. So like the Blair Witch was a big one for me. Like I remember watching it in my parents' house with the lights all down, and then when it finished, like they were upstairs. I was scared to go upstairs, but I was scared to like stay in the room. So that's a big one for me. But also like the Poughkeepsie tapes is a big one for me. Like that film, and like I just couldn't stop thinking about it for days. It really like physical reaction from me that I don't experience often. So I would say yes, the Poughkeepsie tapes for me.
Zoe, I know you're tough as anyone, but do you have a film that scares you?
Do you know what? I like when it comes to nasty shit, tough, but when it comes to like ghosts and stuff, I'm a little fucking wimp. I swear to God. Going back to like Ju-on and Cairo, both of those films for me are like top of my scariest shit list. I've not revisited them in like 10 years because I can't put myself through that. My best friend, her attic door is in her bedroom. So sleepovers were like the worst thing because all I could think was like, oh yeah, that scene in Ju-on, fucking awesome. And I remember watching Cairo, and I think I slept like in my parent. I was like 17. I slept in my parents' bed. My dad got kicked out, but my mum was in there. I was like, yeah, but more recently though, I think it's still like ghosts that still scare me. Like I don't know, like I'm a complete skeptic, but there's something about I'm like, but what if like something behind me? And I think a couple of things that have really scared me in the last few years is the Borderlands. I found that scary as hell. Like anything set in a church, I'm like, nah, that like I'm not down for that. And then and Ariel, I know you love this film, is Caveat on Shudder.
Oh yeah.
I remember like going in the bathroom and going to shut the door, and I was like, maybe I'll keep it open. Like I don't want to see it. So yeah, I get scared quite a lot by spooky stuff.
All of this is making me feel so much better about my embarrassing I can't go to the bathroom in the bar story. So thank you all for making me feel better about that. And this actually is a perfect lead into our next question from Marco Manone on Twitter. Have you ever had a real paranormal experience? And if so, what was it? So has anyone had one?
I wouldn't say paranormal, but one time, like describing it doesn't sound scary at all, but I swear at the time, like I nearly cried. One time I was in a hotel in Vietnam, and I was in the bathroom. Sorry to be graphic, but while I was like in the bathroom doing my business, this thought came into my head. I was like, if you go in the bedroom right now, you're going to see yourself sat on the bed and you're going to die. Like it was like this weird doppelganger thing. And I was like frozen, and my brain was like, all the alarm bells were going off. I was like, you're in the other room right now. And I swear to God, like I had sweat pouring off me. I was so scared. I don't know where it came from. And then after about 5 minutes, it passed, and I went back in and was like so freaked out. But yeah, I don't know what the fuck that was, but it was horrible. And I never want to have anything like that again.
That's really scary.
Yeah, that sounds terrifying.
Yeah, it was gross. It was really horrible. I don't know what it was.
See, I would say I've had something similar. I mean, my parents had loads of like freaky ass ghost stories. I mean, they were doing like Ouija boards because, I mean, I don't fucking know why actually. They were just messed up people. Love it, but what the fuck. But something, me and my partner were on holiday, like, where were we? We were in Cuba. And in the middle of the night, I woke up and I was like overcome with a sense that there was like just something in the bedroom. But like, you know, when you're like, I was like, I would have bet everything I had on the fact that there was something in the corner of the room and I couldn't see it. But I was like, I'm like frozen with fear. And I got so scared, I think I must have like passed out back to sleep. But then in the morning, I spoke to my partner and he was like, did anything weird happen last night? And I was like, wait, what the fuck? And he was like, felt like there was something in the room. And hands down, like even just talking about it now, it gives me like shivers all over my body. Yeah, both of us were like, nah, that ain't right. Like that just, we're convinced it's an alien because we're like obsessed with aliens. And I'm like, did we get abducted? Kind of hope so. But yeah, that creeped us out like beyond words.
Rebecca, Iona, have you experienced anything?
I am a massive skeptic. Like, I do not believe in ghosts. I do not believe in the paranormal. Like, anytime anything like that kind of stuff happens, I'm always like, there's a logical explanation, guys. I think the closest to a paranormal experience I've had is me and my partner went and saw ghost stories, like on stage, which by the way is still the scariest thing I've ever witnessed in my life. Like that did give me nightmares. Like that was terrifying. But on the way home, we were walking down through Hammersmith. We saw it at like the Lyric or something, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw like a figure. And my brain, because I'd literally just watched ghost stories, my brain went, oh, ghost. Like I'm gonna get haunted. Oh my god! Oh. And it wasn't. It was like some lady in a doorway. But I absolutely shit myself. Like I was terrified. So that is the closest to a paranormal experience I've had.
Logical explanation. Rebecca, what about you?
No, nothing from me. I'm also a bit of a skeptic, so I think maybe I'm just not open enough. But
so I'm also a skeptic, but I swear that my dad's ghost visited me the first Halloween after he passed away. And if that's the only paranormal experience I ever have, I will always believe it's paranormal. I will remain skeptical about everything else, but I know he was there. Comfort, because we really loved Halloween together. And then after he passed away, that first Halloween was going to be really hard. And I heard him making coffee in the kitchen, even though I should have been the only one in the house. So I'm going to put that down as my paranormal experience because I want it to be true.
That's so
not
nice.
as good as aliens, but
that's lovely.
Thanks. So a little bit of a swerve now, but a question from Kay Torton on Twitter. Is horror fandom a safe space for women? Why or why not?
I think yes and no. I would say from my personal experience, more so yes. I think especially with the circles that we all run in, you know, with ghouls and everyone ghouls adjacent, we've created a very, well, Zoe, Rekha and Ariel, you have created this very safe space for women to exist in and share all our weird fucked up stuff together. There are, let's say, predatorial men and other people in the community, but there are in any community. And what I really like about the horror community is how if anyone is exposed to these like freaks, we will call them out immediately, and everyone is there for each other. It's a very supportive place to be. Everyone's got each other's back, and so I think I'm leaning more towards yes, it would be supportive space for women, I think.
Yeah, I think I agree with you in that, especially in recent years, especially because the exposure of female directors and stuff has kind of been on the up quite a lot. A lot of female-led stories have come out as well. I think there is now a lot more space for women to be open about enjoying horror. There's like platforms for us to all discuss on. There is a lot more opportunity for women in horror now. Obviously, previous to this, there hasn't always been, and those discussions do need to continue. Those discussions do need to kind of, I guess, show us the way for the future. But I do think we're on the up. I do think we're improving, and hopefully from now on, we will be a safe space for all.
Yeah, I think you know, safe spaces are accessible when we create them ourselves. I think unfortunately we do live in a bit of a shit world where for women and for other, you know, marginalized communities, there's a lot of unsafe spaces. And I think, you know, we've seen from past events, especially you think in the film industry, there's a hell of a lot of stuff that has happened that has really shown that, you know, we definitely still have work to do. And it's a shame, and it's sad that we do live in a society where things like that still exist. But I think, you know, I'm seeing that I personally have found that a lot of men in the horror community are our allies, and they are amazing people that are very supportive, kind, caring. And, you know, if you did say that made me, you know, maybe uncomfortable, they would understand that. Like, they wouldn't ask that question. I think, you know, even just us doing an Ask Us Anything, my instant thought is always, oh, who's going to ask for a creepy foot pic, right? You know, and I think we all joke about it. And so, yeah, of course. But actually, you know, just looking at the responses we had so many questions from men in the horror community, that some we know, some we don't know. And they all asked really intelligent questions of, like, they want to hear our thoughts. So I think it's so nice to see that there are a lot of amazing people, especially in the horror community. I can't talk to, you know, other communities because, like you said, Amber, I'm sure they have unsafe spaces as well. But like the horror community, I think there's an incredibly safe space for women. And I think, you know, that's created by women, by other people, but also by the men in the community who have gone, do you know what? No, and they'll also call out when an arsehole is being an arsehole. And, you know, I think that's really nice.
I agree with everything that's been said. Nothing to add. Here's a fun question from the Autistic Guide Through Horror podcast. Have you ever seen a kill in a movie and thought, that's how I want to go out?
I 100% am a diehard fan of the Final Destination series. Like, it is one of my favorite. I mean, it's probably my favorite series in horror, full stop. Like, I adore them. That. And I feel like if I was going to go out anyway, I'd want it to be something that would be talked about, like in a Final Destination film. So, like, the one that comes to mind is the kid who almost chokes on a fish in the dentist, survives, and then literally within a second is completely crushed by a pane of glass. And it's like, oh shit, he's gone. Oh, okay. Like, I feel like if I wanted to go, it'd be one of the, like, very quick deaths from the Final Destination series.
That's a good answer.
It's not a kill per se, but I've always thought in the film Annihilation, where one of the girls, I think her name's Jessie, I might be wrong, but she turns into like a flower person. In my mind, I'm like, oh yeah, I would love to like be slashed and skinned apart, but actually I'd quite like to go into a field and just turn into a flower person. I think that would be like a really nice, chill way to go.
Another good answer. I couldn't think of anything for this question, but can I steal your flower person answer? Because I really like that.
Yeah, yours seems a lot less aggressive than mine, so I think I also want to become a flower person now.
We have a range of responses here.
Yeah, definitely.
Rebecca or Zoe, do you have any sort of designs on how you want to go out?
I guess if I had to choose, putting it out there, I mean, my dad always says that I'm definitely going to end up like in my own snuff movie. He's really nice, you know. I'm so sorry if he's watching this. I've made him sound like he's not at all. I think that if I were to go out, then I would like to probably be eaten similar to, you know, something in like Hannibal or Fresh. Like I want someone to make the most of me before I go out. And, you know, I think I've got some good muscle in, you know, like my legs and stuff. So I think I'd make a good cut. Of prime meat. So yeah, I don't want to go to this sounds so fucked up when I say it out loud. I don't want to go to waste. So yes, sell me on the market, please.
I'd like to be eaten by Mads Mikkelsen too. I would just like to put that out there.
Oh yeah,
like
100%.
Go to town on me. I don't care, whatever.
Or Sebastian Stan, to be fair. Sebastian Stan, I'm more than happy as well. Like any day, fine.
Exactly. Okay, all right. You've made it sound normal now.
That's the right answer. I think we found it. Yeah. Unless Rebecca, you have anything to add to that.
No, I mean, I've never thought of like wanting to die in the way of a horror character. Like anything other than a quick death for me, like, is terrifying because I'm just such a scaredy cat. So I'm thinking maybe Iona, you made me think of David Warner's death in The Omen. So the sort of the glass, and I think nice and quick, clean, and, you know, a bit dramatic. So
you've got to have the drama in that, don't you? It's like
yeah.
It's like quick and clean. You won't feel it, but everyone else will be talking about it. Everyone will be like, "Oh my god, I can't believe that happened."
Okay, well, let the record show. Don't eat Rebecca. Let the record show. Okay, gonna get a bit more normal again. From Andrew Connor at Nowhere Andy. Is there a horror director that you love and you always seek out, and or is there a director that you actively avoid?
I have one for both of those. I'm going to start on my avoid, like the plague, but it's not really avoid because I do watch his stuff, but like Marion Dora. So
yes,
he I don't know, he just, to me, like, makes trash films. Although I do have a poster here of 2 of his films, but that's because Martin Trafford, that does the art, does the most phenomenal art and kindly sent me some amazing artwork. So I might not love the films, but I love his artwork. Yeah, Marion Dora, just because he makes things like Melancholy de Engel, which is a piece of trash, if you ask me. There's a colostomy bag scene in that, which I just found horrifically
disgusting.
Right, just offensive, disgusting, not a vibe. And then in terms of seeking out actively Lars von Trier, I adore him. Everything he does is just a mood. I know Rebecca is a big fan as well of like Antichrist, but like the house that Jack built. I know a lot of people hate that film. I love it. I just think he's, yeah, I don't know what is going on in his brain, but I love everything.
Yeah, like I'll hop on the back of that then because Lars is my choice as well. You know, I feel deeply connected to his art, and you know, I'm also attracted to directors who've got creative autonomy to put their art on the table, like as it is, and like to be confrontational. Like I enjoy confrontational art, and art that like doesn't give me answers but gives me questions, because I really like sort of taking those away and thinking them over. In terms of like directors to avoid, I'm going to be really boring and say like I've never consciously avoided someone's work, or haven't done. You know, some things aren't for me, and that's fine. But I always want to approach films with a curiosity, like, and I think it's important as well. Like I've seen, you know, with say for example Antichrist, often people comment on a film and create an aura around it before they've even seen it, or if they haven't seen it in their entirety. So, you know, I'm always an advocate for like actually watching films before forming an opinion on them, which, you know, sometimes I think we see too much of.
Rebecca, you're a much more mature and nice person than me, because it's like No, I totally agree with you. But there are two directors whose movies I don't want to like dwell on it because I don't want my inbox full of like angry messages. But non-horror, Wes Anderson, I'll never watch. Horror, Eli Roth. Honestly, like I won't go into it because I want to keep it positive. Directors that I love is I really want to see more of Panos Cosmatos because we had Beyond the Black Rainbow and then there was like a 10-year gap and then we had Mandy and then like nothing. Like where is it? Come on, I need more. Peter Strickland, I love Julia Ducournau, Takashi Miike, Bong Joon-ho. Like I could go on for directors I love forever. In terms of the ones I avoid, probably just those two, and Marion Dora as well.
I'm glad you said Eli Roth because he's one of the ones that I avoid as well. Like I'm not about him. I'm just like my opinions are my opinions. I am not about that man. The other person I think I would avoid just from a moral kind of standpoint is Victor Salva, director of Jeepers Creepers, just because of a lot of the controversial stuff that came out about him. And I think I can't now watch those films without knowing his kind of background. It just makes me a little bit uncomfortable. So I avoid him. That's all I do. In terms of people I actually look for, probably Mike Flanagan. I'm like, I know that's such a basic bitch answer, but like I fell in love with his version of Gerald's Game. Like that is one of my favorite films now because it's just I feel like it's such a perfect adaptation of Stephen King's book, and I am a diehard Stephen King fan. So to have that kind of portrayed on screen in such a like positive rendition, I guess. Well, I mean, obviously it's not a positive film because it's really fucked up, but like it's exactly what I wanted to see in the kind of film version. Other people I look out for, I really want Jennifer Kent to do another horror, just because The Babadook is again another favorite of mine, and I do think it is a perfect film in my opinion, and I would just love to see what else she can do in the horror space. So if she ever does another horror or even psychological thriller kind of film, I will be running to the cinema to see that.
So many good answers here, my gosh. I agree about Wes Anderson, even though he's not horror. He was the only person I could think of whose work I avoid, but each to their own. I'll be super basic and say that I will watch anything Ari Aster puts in front of me. Jordan Peele, and of course James Wan, my boy. Anything he does. Here's a fun one. All of these are fun. I love all of this. From Nick Staniforth. Is there a horror trope that you're sick of seeing? But then the caveat to this is one that wasn't mentioned in Scream. You know, we've got kind of that list of horror tropes that Scream brought to the forefront. Are there any that you can think of that you're sick of that maybe don't get as much talk about? For me, I'm always get annoyed in horror when friends don't believe each other. I just don't buy it. Like if my friend, a close friend came to me and told me something, I would at least hear them out. I wouldn't immediately be like, shh. So yeah, any other horror tropes like that you're sick of seeing?
I haven't seen all the Screams, so I don't know if it was mentioned, but what really gets to me is when people who've never used a gun before pick it up. First of all, pick it up like it's really light, because they're not. And then have like perfect aim. Like I've shot a gun at a shooting range and it was, first of all, it was so heavy and my aim was absolute dog shit because I've never shot before. Like I would be killed instantly. And that really bugs me when people are like, pew, 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 just got it instantly. Unrealistic.
I think the kickback on guns as well.
Yes,
when people are just like in any film, when people are just shooting like it's no problem. Like I went clay pigeon shooting and I had the biggest bruise, like all the way from the top of my shoulder to like the base of my boob, like because the recoil was like boom every time. It's ridiculous. I think I really cannot remember if this is in the Scream films or not, but you know the mirror fake out, like when someone is like getting ready in a mirror or like they've opened a cupboard and then they close it and I'm like there's like a fake out where like the killer or the monster or something should be there and they're not. That like I know obviously it's supposed to be a play on like the old school the killer's there, like, my God. But I feel like it's been in so many films now. I'm always expecting it. Like, I'm always just like, oh, he's not going to be there. Like the
like the medicine
murderer.
cabinet.
Yeah, it's like they close the door and there's that like music, and you're just like, there's nothing there. Shut up! I don't care. Like, get on with the gore. Come on.
I've seen like no Scream films, except for like the first one, which I don't particularly like. Let's not get into any discussions around that. So yeah, I think my biggest bugbear in films, and maybe it's not so much a trope, but like I hate it whenever they've got the bad guy, they knock him down, and then they're like, yeah, that will do. Like, I'll just leave him like that and I'll fuck off. No. Get a knife, cut their head off. Like, every time, I'm like, I know it seems extreme, but like, you've spent a good amount of time getting away from this fucker, and then you're just happy with him having like mild concussion and going, yeah, I think that will stop the monster that's been trying to get me for the last like 10 years. Just keep going, stab him, kill him, which I'm sure is probably a trope that's been seen in Scream, but Nick will know that I fucking hate Scream, so have no idea what tropes are in there.
I think that's fair. Rebecca, do you have one to add?
One of the things I really hate is split personality reveal at the end. Like, oh, it was there wasn't the same person. Like, I think it's quite reductive to start with, and then it's just very unsatisfying and underwhelming. And then I don't know if it's a trope per se, but one of the other things that I really find irritating is characters like talking to themselves to provide plot exposition. I just think it feels like so unnatural, and it should be more about showing than telling. It doesn't feel reflective of real life to me, and I just think it lacks a bit of imagination. So that's a bit of a bugbear for me.
Yep, exposition dumps can really take you out of the story.
Yeah.
So our next question is from Nowhere Andy, and they ask, what existing IP would you want to see a horror slant to? For example, Batman in a haunted Arkham Asylum. Is there any existing IP you can think of that you'd want to add a horror slant to? My answer for this is specifically in the Marvel Universe, WandaVision, I really, really, really wanted to like, but it was a little bit too Marvel for me, if that makes sense. I think they could have really leaned into how creepy it would be to be experiencing your life as different eras of TV. And I would really love to see that with a horror touch. So I don't know if that helps anybody, but if you have an answer for this.
Just a side note, I know that because I as well as being a horror dork, I'm also a massive Marvel dork. I know that Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, they've said this previously, that it's going to be Marvel's first like horror film, and that should hopefully push into Wanda's kind of horror-esque with the multiverse stuff. Like, fingers crossed they'll do it well. We'll see. I'm a bit skeptic, but we'll see.
Okay, good. I can't wait.
Just put your mind at rest. I think, oh God, this is, again, I'm going to sound like such a nerd. I'm going to start like talking about another nerdy obsession of mine. I think if I wanted to see a horror version of anything, I actually kind of want to see a horror version of Pokemon, because how fucking terrifying must it be to be like a wild animal just minding your own business, like, strolling through some long grass, and then some like 10-year-old comes and like attacks you and puts you in a ball, and you are officially a prisoner and you are forced to fight. Like, I kind of want to see like a horror version from the Pokemon's point of view, to be like, holy shit, what has just happened to me? I am now being forced to fight other Pokemon. Yeah, I am officially a dork, but what can you do?
I want to see more Shakespeare horror. I haven't seen the new Macbeth, but apparently that's quite it is Macbeth, isn't it? Is it Macbeth or Hamlet, the new one? It's Macbeth, right?
Macbeth. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I haven't seen that, but it's apparently that one's quite dark, but I want to see like a real horror one. And I feel like A24 could do a good one. I mean, they did the Macbeth one, I think, but they could do a really good like folky, slow burn Shakespeare. And also, I was just thinking I would like to see a horror version of the fairy tale of Bluebeard. There's an Angela Carter, The Bloody Chamber, which is one of my favorite stories of all time, and that just like is one of the scariest things I've ever read. And I know there's a couple of Bluebeard films, but I think they're more like fantasy than horror. But I would love to see like a full creepy Guillermo del Toro like fantasy horror of Bluebeard. That would be fantastic.
That's quite a hard one. Like I don't like any of the Marvel or DC stuff, so I can't answer that. I guess horror version probably going to go off the back of Amber's in terms of like not Bluebeard, but I think any of the kind of more like fairy tale stories. I loved the recent Gretel and Hansel and Gretel movie. I thought that was really, really well done. I thought it was quite creepy, and I think like a lot of the fairy tales are, you know, I think like Snow White was meant to be a lot darker than it was. I think Sleeping Beauty was one of the very, very dark stories. Actually could be quite like an extreme movie, so I'd like to see that. Then I guess the only other thing I think I would personally enjoy is like any kind of reality TV with a horror twist. So, you know, take all your, and I think we spoke about in the group chat the other day, like, you know, take all your Real Housewives, put them in a horror setting, do like Come Dine with Me in a spooky haunted house. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, let's just go for it. Like, why not? Hey,
let's just
horror
do
Come
it.
Dine.
Oh yeah, we can do it.
Ghouls Come Dine. Yeah.
Oh my god, yes. just very slightly jumping on that, Zoe. The one of my favorite ever TV shows that's ever come out is Dead Set, where they did a horror version of Big Brother. Like that was like zombies in Big Brother just made me so happy, because that's when I was going through my like full zombie phase as well, and I was like, this is amazing. Like Davina McCall's a zombie. Like anyone who is non-UK may not know what the hell I'm talking about, but Davina McCall as a zombie was like chef kiss. It was so good.
Well, you know, reality TV as horror, there's an excellent slasher called My Little Eye, if you haven't seen that. Actually, Mike Munzer of The Evolution of Horror has been doing some work to bring that to the forefront again. But it's sort of a Big Brother style horror. It's fiction, of course. But if you're looking for some reality TV style horror, that's a place to look for it. I know we're getting near time now. Zoe, do you want to wrap us up, or do we have time for one more question, or what do you think?
I reckon we've got time for one or two more questions.
Okay,
and wrap up.
Good. So, sort of related to what we were just talking about in terms of putting a twist on things, and this is from Fabeline on Twitter at Tweak81. What male-led horror should get a female reboot?
American Psycho.
Seconded.
I just think that would be it was so great. I mean, you could keep like the setting basically the same, especially as, you know, now like we've got women in positions of power in Wall Street and like economics and things, and she could just fully go to town. And I know there is an American Psycho 2 with, I think, Mia Kunis is in it, but I'm not talking about that shit. Like, I don't want to see that. No hate to Mia Kunis, by the way. I want to see like a full gory, gross American Psycho with a female lead, and keep all the like, is she really doing it? She's just like a, you know, a white upper class yuppie. I want to keep all that, just make her a woman.
I mean, I feel like such a hypocrite saying this now, because I said how much I dislike Eli Roth earlier, but I would actually quite like to see a female version of Hostel, purely just because everyone in that film, apart from like one or two characters, are very much like white males. Like they are all like white males running the show, like doing horrible things. And I'm like, but what if this was run by a group of women who were just absolutely sick of bullshit, like absolutely sick and tired of like being taken advantage of, or like wanted to kind of immerse themselves in their own deep dark desires. I don't know. I feel like it'd be an interesting version of it, but also do not want Eli Roth to direct it. Like,
so
no.
Hostel 2 will give you a little bit of that. It's still directed by Eli Roth, but I adore Hostel 2. Just putting that out there.
Okay, maybe I should give it a go. I have only seen the first one, so
Second one is worlds better. In my opinion.
I'm always willing to try if someone recommends.
I couldn't think of an answer for this one. This is a good question. Everything I thought of was already female led. So
I think I would choose. Oh, have I just forgotten it? No, I was thinking of like loads of vampire films. Like they're already quite, you know, sexual, and I feel like if you just replace the men with girls, like it would make these vampire films so much hotter. I think Interview with a Vampire, I would love to see 2 female leads in that, even though I do love the movie. Also, The Lost Boys, I think would be very cool with an all-female cast. And then what I think I would like to see, I don't think it would work necessarily, but maybe, is like, you know, obviously you've got Leatherface, you've got your Freddy, you've got your Michael Myers. I'd like to see all of those iconic characters switched into females and see more final boys. I think I'm not sure whether it would work, but, you know, it could be interesting. And I feel bad, Rebecca, because I know you love Leatherface, and I feel like you might not approve of this idea.
No, I love the sound of that. I mean, it needs shaking up anyway, so I think that could be the thing to do it. For me, I was thinking about The Thing, possibly, but then that is a film to me where gender is not at the forefront. So I actually don't know if by switching it out, like it would actually change anything, but maybe there's a different direction you could go in with it. I think for me, it's like horror often has strong female presences within it, at least in terms of characters, which is why I love horror so much. But I'd like to see more female like writers, producers, directors being given the opportunity to bring their art to the table as well. So yeah, that's my take on it.
Lovely. Well, this has been such a fun discussion, and there's so many questions that we didn't get to in my little stack here, but lots of good discussion to be had. Zoe, do you want to wrap us up?
Yes, and I guess with so many questions left, we'll have to do a part 2 or something.
Have to.
Clearly everyone's got burning questions for us, which I love. Yes, thank you, Ariel, for hosting. That was so much fun. I love a random question. We have got more events coming later today. So in about an hour at 3:30 p.m. GMT, we have our Creators of Horror event. I will be talking to some of the best in the business. We've got quite a stacked lineup for that. I'm trying to low-key keep my fangirling inside, but you know, would be fine. Then at 7:30, we've got none other than Rebecca with her Women in Horror quiz, which I can tell you now is really fucking. I know I'm bad at quizzes, but it's really hard. So we do have prizes because someone has to Rebecca and her questions. And then at 9 p.m. GMT, I've scheduled it so we can have like snack breaks and drink breaks today. We are going to be heading over to Zoom. I will share the link everywhere. Over on Zoom, we are going to be screening a short horror film from Monstrous Femme called Fanatico. It's got Giallo vibes, so lots of you are going to absolutely adore that. Then we're going to do a little 15-minute Q&A with Emma Cogan and Hannah May, who are the filmmakers of the short. And then after that, for anyone that wants to stick around, have a few drinks, grab some popcorn, we're all going to stream Slumber Party Massacre 2021, which Ariel, I know you love those movies, so I thought We're going to pop that on. That's available on Amazon UK and US. I think it's like £2 to rent or something. So let's make sure we're paying back to the industry and to the filmmakers we love. And yeah, we'll just be on Zoom watching along. And that is pretty much it. Whilst you wait for the other events, you can, of course, once again, head over to ghoulsmagazine.com. You can find all of everyone here's wonderful writings and ramblings, and the rest of our writers. And also, if you head over to ghoulsmagazine.com/Ghouls we're actually offering our membership where you get extra editorials, extra content, and an extra podcast coming soon, which Amber and I recorded last night, I'll have you know. If you head over to ghoulsmagazine.com/Ghouls and you enter the code Happy B Day at checkout, you can get that for free for a month, and you'll have access to all of the content we've posted over the last year. So yeah, thank you so much, Ariel. Thank you to you for being the best host ever, and to everyone for chatting. And I guess we'll see everyone in a bit.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Bye. Bye. Bye.